You cannot ever run a technological society that we have today without silver. It is the most critical element on the periodic chart. I am on record, probably without a doubt, in my opinion, I've never found this to be contrary, that silver would hit at least $100 US on this next bull market. You might silver go from 50 to 150 in 2.5 years. So that's a 300% move in a short amount of time. Now, does that guarantee it's going to be triple digit? And the answer is no. We could peak at 77. We could peak at 82. I don't know. We could peak at 200. I don't think anyone knows at this point.
As of November 2025, the precious metals market is witnessing historic momentum, with silver trading near $52 per ounce after hitting a record high of $54.48 earlier this year. This surge is underpinned by a fifth consecutive year of structural supply deficits, where soaring investment demand is aggressively offsetting a slight dip in industrial offtake. Meanwhile, gold has stabilized around the $4,100 level, driven by relentless central bank accumulation, now accounting for nearly 22% of global reserves, and growing expectations of further Federal Reserve rate cuts to combat economic fragility. In this video, David Morgan, publisher of the Morgan Report, argues that modern technological society cannot function without silver, calling it the most critical element on the periodic table. He predicts silver will hit at least $100 in this bull market, potentially driven by a currency crisis and the loss of the dollar's purchasing power. Morgan highlights that falling mining grades and intense industrial consumption are creating a scenario where investors and industry may soon compete for the last available bars of silver, as the market realizes supply cannot meet the infinite demand generated by currency devaluation. Let's watch clips from David Morgan's explosive interview to gain more insight. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and enable notifications for additional in-depth content. Thanks for joining us again. Enjoy the video.
How much higher can silver actually go, and why?
Well, there's really two answers to that. One is, how high can it go? So could it go, not would it go, is infinity. Why? Because if you have a complete breakdown in the currency crisis and the US dollar does what the Zimbabwe dollar did, or the Argentine peso, or so many in our book and other books, you will find currency crises throughout history where the essential value of the currency went to zero. So if you divide by zero, the numerator is infinite. Is that going to happen? No, it will not. It's highly doubtful. It's almost 100% guaranteed it won't go to infinity. However, the perception that the value of the dollar is losing purchasing power at such a rapid rate that the fear of it going to zero is a strong possibility. And in that case, pick a number. So if you take the all-time high of 1980 that lasted in the minutes, and you adjust it for the CPI, you come out with $120 silver or thereabouts. If you use the metrics that used in 1980 for the CPI, not the new one, you will come out with about a $600 silver. So where do I think it'll go? One is, the market knows more than anyone, one of my favorite sayings, and yet it's true. And it keeps us all humble, because no matter how good you are at whatever you do, especially in the markets, sooner or later, the market will humble you by, you have the fundamentals right, but the technical's wrong. You have the technicals right, but the fundamentals wrong. I mean, things will take care of themselves and maybe be irrational, and maybe irrational for a long time, and make you look foolish or whatever. So my guess, I would say guess, I am on record, probably without a doubt, in my opinion, I've never found this to be contrary, the first one to publish that silver would hit at least $100 US on this next bull market. And right now we're halfway there. So my minimum, starting in, I think, 2003, when I wrote Get the Skinny on Silver Investing, was $100 an ounce. And I still stick to that. Now, does that guarantee it's going to be triple digit? And the answer is no. We could peak at 77. We could peak at 82. I don't know. We could peak at 200. I don't think anyone knows at this point. The main point, I think, is silver's run to a maximum upside level has not, I'll repeat, not been accomplished yet. You might silver go from 50 to 150 in 2.5 years. So that's a 300% move in a short amount of time. And the silver market really is a derivatives market. The way the price of physical silver is determined is by a derivative known as a futures contract on the COMEX, the New York Futures Exchange. And it's not even an open outcry system anymore. Basically, it's an electronic platform where there's all kinds of bids and asks for a product known as a contract for silver. And the large contract is 5,000 ounces. The mini contract is 1,000. And that sets the price. Once that price is set, if you go into the physical reality and go to a dealer such as yourself, you will see that price and you will see another price. The other price is, what is a silver round? What is a 10-ounce silver bar? What's a kilo of silver? What is that product in the retail investment side physically cost? And the answer is it varies. The premium is at times fairly low and at times very high, and depending on the product, it can be excessive. Mm-hmm. So when you buy silver on the exchange and the price of silver is, let's for talking purposes, say $51 per ounce, the only way you can get silver for $51 per ounce is in the futures exchange. You can lock in a contract at 51 and have a commercial bars on the big contract mailed to you, to your house, to your office, to your bank, to your lawyer, wherever. And even there, it would cost you a little more than 51. You would have some storage fees from the time your check cleared to pay for the full contract. There's also some paperwork fee involved. And then in most cases, there's a shipping fee as well. Looking at this chart, which I have to give credit for, it's from Matt Watson. And you see the green bars there are solar. And this is from 2025 to 2050. So this is projecting out the next 25 years. Now, let me caution you. Whenever you go out 25 years for a commodity, you're going to make some errors. You're going to make some assumptions that are valid today that may not be valid 5 years from now or 10 years from now. However, what we know now, this is a very accurate look at silver going forward. So if you look at the black line, what you'll see is all mining activity from the year 2010 projected to 2050. And what it shows you is it's going slightly down to the right, meaning that the mining of silver is getting more and more difficult to obtain that 850 million ounces per year. It's going down, 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 down slightly. Now, if you use the red line, that is all silver. What is that? Well, mining that I just described and recycling, which is round numbers about 150 million ounces. So if you add the mining and the recycling, you get roughly 1 billion ounces per year going on for the next 25 years, again, tapering down somewhat. I think that's accurate from what we know so far. And they're not picking that 1 year to the next was a little less silver mining. We're looking over the last decade that silver mining has gone down. Grades have decreased, so the amount of material you have to move to get an ounce of silver out has increased. In other words, instead of getting 17 ounces per ton, you're moving a ton and you're only getting 12 ounces. That's the idea. They vary mine to mine. Now, if you look above that red line, you see what we all know, that we have been in a deficit for the last few years. And that means that no, solar by itself won't eat up all of the demand, but industry alone does. Let me say that again. Industrial demand, according to Matt Watson, eats up the entire silver supply roughly from 2025 going as far as you can see for the next 25 years. So what does that mean? Well, it means in theory you'll run out of silver. Now, will you really run out of silver? Well, that's a different question, because the law of supply and demand states that at a high enough price, more silver will be melted from silverware into usable form, or more mines will be discovered, or maybe a new technology will come along, or that type of thing. But barring all that, in the near future, you could see that we have to eat the above ground stockpile, which you've already started eating away the last 4 or 5 years. Estimates are anywhere from 800 million to even 1 billion ounces that have been sucked up out of the above ground supply for the last 4 or 5 years. And at that rate, you can see with the line going slightly off to the right and downward means less supply. And you see the projected industrial and investment demand, which are the gray bars at the top, demanding more and more and more and more every year we go forward. The one place I disagree with Matt, and your viewers may agree with me or not, is he shows the investment demand being a constant 200 million ounces a year. And I don't see it that way. I think as we get more and further into the currency crisis, there'll be more and more demand by retail and industry that can't live without it.
Yeah.
So you ask the question, and I'll feed it back to you. What happens if we start fighting over who gets that last bar of silver? Industry needs it, or they're out of business, and investors want it because the dollar's blowing up, or the lira, or the yuan, or whatever the currency is. I don't trust my currency. I trust silver. Gold's too expensive. I can't afford it. It's 5,000 the ounce, hypothetically. It's 4,400 so far, U.S. terms.
Yep.
I got to buy silver, or I'm going to die. In other words, my bank account is not going to have any purchasing power left. I've got to do something. Oh, I know what to do. I have to buy some silver. You cannot ever run a technological society that we have today without silver. It is the most critical element on the periodic chart. And the only thing that's superior to silver as far as humanity's place in today's modern society is energy, or the oil market.
DavidMorgan asserts that silver is the most critical element required by our technological society, which cannot function without it. Compounding this necessity is a critical supply deficit, as industrial demand consumes the entire annual supply. Mining grades are decreasing, forcing the market to eat away at above-ground stockpiles, a trend that is unsustainable. Morgan firmly sticks to his minimum forecast of silver hitting at least $100 US in this next bull market. However, the ceiling is unknown, potentially peaking at $200. The ultimate catalyst remains the fear of a currency crisis, driving investors to physical silver as the last trusted store of purchasing power when the dollar loses purchasing power. If you found this breakdown helpful and want to stay ahead of these historic market moves, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Your support helps the channel grow and keeps you informed when the markets shift next.